get going?
Well, see, I done got flustered and
It's cool.
got everything there.
I told you, being your brother.
How you doing? You alright?
I said you know, I gained a little bit of my weight back. Because, you know, I was sick or whatever.
Okay.
My thyroid. I'm doing better. I'm just taking my medicine or whatever.
Okay.
And, you know, everything's going good.
So I remember when y'all came to Carver? Y'all came to Carver in '89.
I remember that show.
With two other dudes.
Yeah. They called
Came with two other dudes. I guess y'all was trying to put out Fat Guy who was rapping. It was a night show.
It was after the show y'all did out Cherry Hill with EPMD. Because I remember y'all went to Carver like you
And you say 89.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Other than him, probably the biggest non-Newmark member follower.
In 89? That's wild. Because I thought it must have been right after that when I was gone. And it was just Kevin and Wayne.
Okay.
Had to be like right after that.
But you did the summer '89 when you did the thing as far as at the De La Soul show down the Civic Center. You didn't do too much after that, did you? That was July '89.
I believe so.
The last show I remember is you DJing like here. I'm quite sure the one after it was. I was telling him last night. I couldn't remember the name. It was Festival Hall. There was you, Frank Ski. It was Frank Ski, you. You had the best set, just so you know. But it was you, Frank Ski, I think Slim Bird. But,
Okay.
it was, I can't remember if it was Easter or 4th of July.
I don't even remember where was Festival Hall?
He didn't
Right
remember.
there.
I think the
Park,
stadium
right
is
down
now.
front. They used to have that frame down there. It's where the baseball stadium right now. Right down Pratt Street is a baseball
Across from
parking lot.
Convention
Across
Center.
from the hotel, across from the
Yeah.
convention center. Festival Hall, they used to have that frame there. And y'all did this show down there. Remember y'all came out to 45 King music?
I thought, yeah, that was our thing. I mean, at
Right.
one point, right, that was our thing.
Right.
This was 89?
No, this wasn't 89. This might have been,
That had to be earlier.
it was
Yeah, Festival Hall was earlier.
87, 88.
Yeah.
Must have been.
Right. That's
Okay.
when Journey rapped at that show. I remember he got
Yeah,
up there.
because he did Just Gene.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that.
You remember your first rap?
No,
Your first radio rap? I remember.
Do you know
I
what
have
it
no
was?
idea.
Yeah, I remember.
Tell us. We
I had
started
no
it.
idea.
It's embarrassing. Mine, y'all know everything word for word. It might come back to you.
Yeah.
But you started saying, who could it be but your heart regulator?
Yeah, I know.
Remember
I
that?
know it. Yeah. Yeah, I know it.
I stole that part with the salt and pepper and ingredients.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to put that in every rap I did. Your first radio.
I remember it, but I don't remember none of like the real particulars behind none of
You've
that.
been
That's
all over the
wild.
world. I remember your first radio dedication. I can't remember what show it was on. Y'all used to do nighttime or V103. This was a Saturday afternoon. It was a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I think it was Shannon dedicated Luther Vandross So Amazing.
Yeah.
They made me go out and buy that album.
You didn't know you had that kind of influence on people.
You don't remember that?
Are you kidding me? That was probably EBV.
EBB,
Was
Chuck
it
Maximum.
EBB?
Yeah, that probably had to be EBV.
EBB
because
was
if
Chuck
I
Max.
did that, that was just me being on the air.
Yeah, he was on air.
Yeah, that's what that was.
I knew it was in the afternoon.
Start recording?
I've been starting.
Huh?
I've been starting recording.
Oh, okay.
I can edit and all that stuff. I've been starting recording.
Without further ado, the interview from the S to the P, not the I, but the EN.
I remember that rap.
So did you write those raps?
Yeah. 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 I got them in a book at home, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made you say this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Other than how good you are.
coming up, it was one or two things that I figured that I really wanted to do, and I had no idea that any of this stuff, man, would like come to light. But basically, I was really, really into comic books. That was my thing. Actually, early on, even it was more so like a reality thing that I really wanted to do, because the music thing was just something that I really liked. You know, and brothers left all this music at home and all of that kind of stuff, and I was just putting stuff together with, you know, a pause button, you know, from like 6, 7 years old. It's like real crazy. What I believe kind of turned it around for me to make me realize that it's something that really could happen was when AP Crew used to do these mixes on EBB, and Randy Dennis was their manager. And one day I came home from school, and I had to. This was high school, first year of high school. I came home I went to Mount St. Joe, and after basketball practice, it must have been or something. You know, we would get home, and EBB would just be about going off, and Randy Dennis would be playing that stuff like late. So I said, okay, I could do what they doing, and I didn't even have, you know, like turntables. I had a turntable and a pause button, and I literally paused a mix together. I gave the cassette to Randy Dennis, and I'm like, you know, and back then, I mean, I ain't have any kind of thought about what it should be. You know, I mean, I knew the guys was doing stuff off of reel-to-reels, basically.
Right.
And I had a cassette, so I literally took him the cassette. The next day, he played it on the air. I was like, "You have got to be joking!" And that was when that changed. That changed everything. That one day changed everything. And I just continued to just sort of work towards that, because it was kind of like what that was God laying it out on the table, saying, "Look, this is your thing." I just ran with it.
And you did that in high school?
Yeah. Ninth grade.
So within 2 to 3 years, you went from that to the way you cut, scratch, and transform?
Yeah.
Did you do the schoolwork?
It was one point there where it was a little rocky with the schoolwork. It was a little bit rocky, but that was before I did all of this stuff. I mean, it was, I don't know, man. To tell you honestly, I don't even know how I got through high school. I would like be hinging off of these dudes, because, you know, like Tones, he was smart, Marlon was smart, and I had another cousin that was real smart. So it was one of those things where, you know, being in the school that I was in, I had to try and do something. And I basically, for a long time there, the first couple years of high school, I got by with just C's. And then once I got real serious about stuff, then, you know, I started, all of a sudden went from a C student to a kind of like B student. And then my last year of high school, which don't even matter, I was all A's, but nobody even cared about the last year. Well, what did you do in, you know, your junior year? It wasn't enough. And then I was a terrible SAT test taker. So. I mean, really, really bad. And the reason why is because every time they did the SAT, the night before I had a party. So, and I was getting paid for it.
But that's what's amazing. It's like you started this in high school before you finished high school. You would think you've been doing this for 10, 15 years. Because you're the first person that I heard do the transform from scratch. And then people were saying Jazzy Jeff and Tap Money.
Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince had a show that they did in Philadelphia on a Sunday. It was a Sunday. It must have been like a Sunday afternoon that they were doing this. They were doing whatever this show was that they were doing. But I had some family in New York, and every time we decided, we ain't go maybe 3 times that I've ever seen these family members when they lived in New York. But we would go up to New York, and on the way back, I was just like, you have got to be joking. I was listening to what Jazzy Jeff was doing, and literally came home trying to imitate it. So Jeff was the first person I ever heard do it. And once I figured it out what he was doing, I just took it home and tried to do it. And And it was a whole other thing when I actually saw them do it because they got hired. I think the year that they did Girls of the World Ain't Nothing But Trouble for Afro. When I saw Jazzy Jeff do what he was doing, that I heard on the radio, that I thought was like, nah, he can't be doing that for real. I thought that he was doing manipulating tape, something. I don't know. But once I saw him do it, I was on a mission. That was it. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. And
you're the first that I physically seen him do it.
I was probably one of the first dudes in Baltimore
doing
it, but it was yo, what Jeff was doing, and I hadn't even heard Cash Money. And you know, back then everybody was saying that Cash was probably better than Jeff. It's just Jeff had the opportunities that Cash never had. But these dudes out of Philly was sickening.
Nobody here in the Baltimore area even know what it was. I didn't even know. I'm like, whatever it is, it sounded good.
Yeah.
Because you got me inspired to be great. I tried. It didn't last long. Keep trying to buy 2 of the same records on the money I was making.
Sure. I mean, man, you had we was working World Connections Travel, so he know what kind of money I was making. And fact of the matter really was, you know, some of the shows sort of helped to facilitate me even keeping up with what music was, because it was tough.
And we had Raffy up there give us a big discount in Metro.
Yeah, his big discount would be like, to buy 5 records, I give you a few dollars off.
You had this one mix. This had to be like 86, 87. I've never heard R&B and rap mixed together. I don't know if this was R&B, disco, but the Schoolie B Saturday Night. And you mixed it with, I can't remember the name of the group, the name of the song is called C'est La Vie.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. I can't remember who it's by.
But you did that, and that's the first time I ever heard rap not mixed with another rap song.
Yeah, that was
And when I got that record.
that was crazy. But you know, that was me and a pause button for a lot of that kind.
No, that was a blend.
No, it was a blend. But trust me, in the middle of them blends, what I would be doing, I would be holding the blend, pausing pieces together.
Jesus. But that takes a lot of work.
Nuts.
And that's real creative.
Like all of that stuff, like we would do when we were doing it, and we were doing it for real. We would literally spend a week on doing a mix, and then put it on V103 Friday. Go back, work on a mix for a week. Put it on V103 Friday. Go back, do another mix. Put it on. I mean, literally, I would be pausing mixes together and taking like a certain section of a mix would probably take a day. And then once I got that right, then I would come back and I would continue working on it.
Friday night was our highlight, and he may have never told you this, he may never will, but another DJ who got a little popular now, we used to listen to y'all mix on Fridays, which was Scotty B, because he used to work at that 7-Eleven. He was like the only white guy I knew that knew hip hop like that. But after the mix, we were like, did you hear this part? Did you hear that part? And then he got into DJing, but he took it way more serious than I did.
Yeah.
And it's just, he probably never tell you that. Maybe he has.
He played right before Mr. Spen at Godfrey's every Friday night. He used to come down the ladder and we go up.
Yeah, Scotty was cool people. It was interesting when I first met him. The first time I met him, and I actually paid attention to meeting him. He was working in a record store, literally at the corner of Cold Spring and Park Heights. You know, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, why was there a record store there?
Yeah, I remember one being there.
He had a record. He was working in a record store there, and he had some records. He had some music in there. So
he said the new marks, and like you were, like they do Guy featuring Teddy Riley, like Teddy Riley is. You know, used to say the new marks and DJ Spen, like you were like part of the new marks, but you the headliner, which really you was the most recognizable.
Well, it was. I think the only reason that was because I think that at the end of the day, I was the guy that kind of brought everybody together on it.
And that was my next question: how did y'all even come up?
Yeah, it was because out of that out of that mix that I put together that time for Randy Dennis was like, well, what's the name of your crew? I said, Newmark.
When she looked at the mixer.
Yeah, I looked right. I just thought about the mixer. I mean, I'm standing in front of his face, and he's like, "What's the name of your crew?" I'm like, Newmark. He's like, "Okay, that's cool." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm making up all of this stuff on the fly. Yeah. So I was making up all the stuff on the fly, and then next thing you knew, no, it was originally supposed to be me, Mark Marlin, and Wayne Mallory. That's what a lot of people never do. So yeah, it was supposed to be us four, and one thing led to another, and my two cousins couldn't do it, and then it was just me and Wayne. So me and Wayne ran with it for a minute.
Wayne is
Beatmaster Moses.
Moses.
Yeah, and after that, I believe it was Cool Rod who came in, and you got to understand. See, we went to middle school with Rod, so I hadn't seen Rod really in about a year before he came, he could come calling, yo, I can rhyme and do whatever. And you gotta understand, Cool Rod was not serious. He was a jokester. All he's trying to do is just, joke people and do whatever he was doing, right? So I ain't take him serious. He came down my basement and laid down around. I was like, oh, yo, you in for real. Because he was just good. He just had a thing. And he was more of a people person than everybody else. He was more of a people person than me, and definitely more of a people person than Wayne. So people just started recognizing a lot of what we were doing through him, because he was the most kind of outspoken guy in the group. And of course, then Junie Jam is his cousin, and then who lived around the corner from Junie Jam was Kevin Lyles, and that's how it worked. That's how we kind of all just sort of got it together.
Thinking back then, like Kevin to me was the lesser known of all of them.
He was.
And the group.
He was, because he was the last person to come on. And to be honest with you, Rod was, he was more the outgoing guy. So Kevin kind of fell in sort of Rodney's footsteps, but Kevin took it more serious than Rod as an MC. So Kevin was always real serious about it. So a lot of the songs and stuff like Girl, You Know It's True, at the basis of it was Kevin's idea.
So where the hell did the G come
kind
from?
Of stuff. Don't know.
It was Robert KG. I'm like, hold up.
Yeah.
Years later, when I realized
he
Kevin Lyles.
told me when we was rapping, it stood for cool guy.
Okay.
Maybe.
Rod had a crazy side of him his mother ain't seen. So he
Right. Right. So he was the one who played it cool. So probably so.
Was there a personal beef battle back then in you all in the We Rock crew?
Oh yeah. Everything. I don't know about them from their perspective, and I'm sure it was. But everything that we did, man, was a competition. I mean, everything I was just battle minded. It's like there's nobody out here, man, that's going to do this better than we do it. And of course, there were people.
But I didn't think so either back then. I mean, I was biased.
Well,
but
I mean, it. Look, for real, them dudes, We Rock Crew, they were good. They were really good. I mean, Universe was good. The other guy though was the one.
Terry T.
Not Terry T. The other MC. He was the other.
Jeffrey C.
Yeah, he was the guy that kind of really, I think, made everything happen. Universe was the good-looking one, so he attracted everybody, and Terry T was just Terry T, and who was good as well. But everything we did, man, battle-minded. We were just trying to be the best.
Didn't say names, but you can almost see they talking about them. Oh, that's for them. Or come on, bring on the competition. Anybody, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
Then we ran into your boys.
Who? Vicious.
Nah, that's not I just happened to.
I know where that's coming.
I met him and we became cool, and a couple times down Godfrey's he let me get on when Charlie C was doing whatever the hell he was doing.
Right.
And Vincent wanted to go downstairs, mess with girls or whatever, and he would let me get on. I just blend 2 or 3 records. I would never try to get out of my own element.
Right.
But the stories that I heard from Tone about Vincent, I never saw back then.
Right.
Till later. I mean, he'd be first to tell you. He would tell me he's a hooligan. He gotta calm his ways. And
Yeah.
But then they said when y'all two had a big disagreement. I'm like,
But it wasn't even, see, and that was the point. I mean, see, for me, it wasn't a disagreement. It was just, okay, you want to battle? Fine, let's do it. And it wasn't like, it was never a thing where I even talked to Vicious, all right? Because the thing was, and people have to understand, I didn't know Vicious as Vicious. I thought Vicious V was Doug Lazy from DC.
wow.
So when we started talking Vicious V, I'm like, Doug? That's who I'm thinking is Vicious V.
Right.
So, and for me, to be honest, he was the first person who I heard use the name Vicious V. All right. So I'm thinking Doug Lazy, not Vicious. So at the end of the day, once I got it all clear in my mind, I was like, okay, well, we can battle. I never meant to do so. It's whatever. So, you know, the rest is whatever that is.
And I never got to see none of your battles.
Yeah.
That video wasn't popular back then like it is now. You have any of them recorded? Audio?
I can tell you about it. He took down the dude from Winners Lane at St. Joe Activity Day. What was his name?
Scratch.
DJ Scratch. Used to be on WWIN.
And I just saw him. I saw him like a year ago. I mean, it's interesting because one guy, there's this one dude down on the Eastern Shore, and I don't even know if he's still doing it anymore, man. But this cat was nasty. And every time we went down and we did a gig at the Eastern Shore, he would always just stand there and just be like, blah, blah, blah. And one day he just got up the nerve and say, yo, I want to battle. It's like, you tripping. I'll battle you right here, right now. So I'm doing whatever. He would come behind and do whatever. I was like, whoa, I would do whatever. He would come back and do whatever. I'm like, oh, you nasty. And it got to a point where it was getting a little bit heated. Junior had to pull me off the turntable and say, yo, don't even do it. I'm like, why?
So was it a draw?
Yo, that was one battle where I would say piece by piece, dude, he was matching everything. And I was running out of stuff to do.
Oh, he went toe to toe when you did Sing Sing.
He did something else. He didn't do Sing Sing, but he did something else. But I'm saying that the skill was like, wow, that's good.
He was the creator, to me, the Sing Sing. No one was doing that.
Yeah, nobody else messed with that record.
And he was doing it in. That wasn't paused. I saw you doing it at the Palladium. But I was going to say, when you were doing it, like, I don't know the musical or DJ term, but like half second coming back.
I don't know what the heck it's called either. And the bad thing about it is that a lot of that stuff, you know, that I was doing with turntables back then, I don't even know if I could even do anymore. That's what's crazy. And, you know, again, I was trying to get geared up to do this DJ battle thing that they do every year in New York. And my managers at the time were supposed to enter me into the competition. They forgot. And I said, "Are you serious?" And I was just out. I think I was so annoyed by it that I just stopped. I just said, "Okay, that's it. I'm done."
Think you would have won? Think you could have won?
Maybe not one. I think in my mind, I could have got past the first and second round. No question. Whether I would have won it, I don't know. Because then right after that, you know, you had dudes now spinning on their head and all that other kind of crazy, you know, like the real theatrical stuff. You know, after Jeff won it and then Cash won it. And, yeah.
With Grandmaster D, they just used to like lift him up. He didn't do like stuff that Scratch would do.
Well, nah, but go, yeah, see that, right, and then you get into the dudes like DJ Scratch, the EPMD dude, and then it's, you know, I mean, it's really, at that point, it's like seriously a whole nother level of stuff that at a point, you know, unless you literally in front of your turntables like 8 hours a day like it's a job, you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, but to your credit, you DJ mix, scratch, whatever, all genres of music. You don't have a lot of DJs that do that.
I think the genre thing came from
and not to cut you off, Booby patted himself after.
DJ Booby.
This. He told
DJ
me.
Booby is better than me by far.
Prime versus Prime?
I mean, if you, Prime versus Prime, I don't know. But when Booby started coming around was kind of like when I was in college, I was really kind of slowing down. But the thing about him was that, see, he was taking this Baltimore club stuff. And dudes was playing that stuff at like 130 beats per minute. I mean, he was fast. Yeah. So I would be standing in the store like, God. Wow. He would literally be standing in the store like, yeah.
He told me at a carver dance, him and I forgot the other dude was his partner. It was Phase 2 back then.
Yeah.
And he said, like, I didn't know you, or nobody knew who you were. He was like, nah, I learned this stuff listening to this guy, DJ Spen. You ever see him? I'm like, I've seen him. He's like, oh my God, believe you with 2 hands on a turntable. It's crazy. Watch one day, I'm gonna be bigger than him. And I'm like,
he dope. I'm
but
telling
he
you.
credits you to who he patterned himself
Fast. He was fast. For real. He was fast. And that was, like I said, I've probably been 2 or 3 years out of trying to do that battle stuff. And we were working in the record store together, and he was like doing some stuff. I'm like, all right, yo. Go ahead on.
With today's music compared to then, will it frustrate you? Just the whole music scene, the music, where the DJ is? Because to me, DJs they broke the records.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of albums back then, it was the DJ, like Eric B. and Rockwell, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince,
right.
Scott LaRock, and it was like the DJ was on the forefront,
right,
and not the MC,
right.
And it's like now,
it's interesting because that I think that even made its way. You take it another step, it all of a sudden became like the DJ all of a sudden now had to be the MC too. So now, you start to look at guys like, the Reggie Regis and the Frank Skis and these types, which
I'm going to say it terrible, but
well, I'm not going to say terrible. I'm saying it's evolution. Basically what's happened is that, just like everything, you started with a 10-piece band. You go see Rick James, he got 10 pieces instruments with him. That dwindled down to, okay, now here's this DJ, and then this DJ got this dude talking. Then that goes down to, okay, now the DJ is like, I don't need nobody to talk, now the DJ does the talking. And I think that's kind of where we at right now, where it's like, everybody's looking at one source for one thing. So now you got to be the DJ, you got to be the MC,
the engineer,
the engineer, the producer. If you're a mobile guy, you got to have your own system and all of that stuff. And now you got to do your own promotion. So it's like you got to be this whole entertainment thing in one package.
You ever produce any music?
I produce records every day.
Wow.
Every day. That's what I do. I have a record label. And I am literally working with Tommy Davis, who was, the guy at Metro Stereo. So I'm making records every day, every single solitary day.
I need that. Were you that this was I don't want to say a myth because I don't know everything, but just from what I hear, you were like an invisible basement boy. You were a basement boy. You weren't a basement boy.
I was never quote unquote a basement boy. The only way I can explain it is I was like a freelance agent that was working under Basement Boys while Basement Boys were doing their really big records like the Crystal Waters stuff, Alternate Taste stuff, Mass Order stuff, was stuff that I was basically doing a lot of what you would call pre-production. So I would get records ready for them to take to another step, whether it was writing a song, doing a beat, doing pre-production, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing that I was doing with them that kind of really catapulted me into being a quote-unquote producer. So now I'm doing like everything.
Hey, you're blessed.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else at this point. And to be honest with you, I've tried to do other stuff. You know, I mean, I graduated with a BA in mass communications and a minor in English. I ain't used the English section at all. At one point, I was thinking maybe I should leave the music thing alone and try and go teach somewhere. But
you still listen to Baltimore?
Tell him this man, not only a DJ, is who I think was the best rhymer in the group.
Well, I remember all your raps.
There's been sentiment that he was the best rapper.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, did you write him?
Yeah.
Because I remember if I hear the first line of any of his raps from back then, I could finish the whole round. I can't do that with Rod KG's. I remember some of theirs, but all of yours it was like that was my highlight to listen. I made a tape for a guy, and I had to listen to the whole 45 minutes.
Made you stomp your feet, didn't it?
I listened to it for 45 minutes for where they said, you're listening to V103 and this is DJ Spen. Meanwhile, so I can kind of erase that out to take credit with his mix. And it was this one song. Somebody told me in middle school. That's when I first started following.
Okay.
I was in Garrison Junior High, and he said the name of the song was Captain Rock. I've been searching for that song for years. I ain't went over Metro, they know what I'm talking about. Excuse me for trying to imitate a song. I don't.
Okay.
But maybe it'll ring your ear. It didn't have no words, but it's just the.
Oh no.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's a better way. It's Mr. Magic. Is who it is.
Wow, I did never knew. And this fool told me it's Captain Rock, something like your record.
Nah, man. It's I had the big story behind that record is that I had a tape from New York where Mr. Magic and them dudes was playing it, and it was a big kind of like underground New York record.
Nobody down here ever played it.
Yeah, nobody had it. I had to order it special, literally from Metro Stereo to get that record. It was the only way I could get it. And right now I can't remember who did it. That record's unstored somewhere. I can't remember the name of who did it. But that was a big.
I've never heard it before or after. Back then we only had EBB in the day, Friday nights. I used to listen to Mac James on WWIN until y'all went to V103. Then I was done with the AM.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just
evolved in the FM. But yeah, I do not remember it. But that record, that specific, I cannot remember it right now. But it's like Mr. Magic. That was like Mr. Magic when he had just started doing that Magic Wand show. And I think that was one of the records that kind of came out of that whole thing, you know, with Houdini doing Magic Wand, and a lot of people just starting to recognize Mr. Magic for what he was doing. And that record was a part of that. And I can't help you, dude. I just do not remember the name of the artist, but I know it's Mr. Magic something or other.
What was the whole? I know stories that I've heard. I was even telling Tone some of the stories that I heard about you and Frank Ski. And this is the story that I heard. And even when the Festival Hall concert or show, you would be you and show them up. When he would get on, the crowd wouldn't respond the way they did to you, and you kind of like, you gotta do it this way or the highway, and your response was, I ain't no damn Ski J. Now that's the story. You remember the lady Teresa of Music Liberated? Short bald-headed girl. Bernie owned the store.
Yeah.
She was a Jamaican.
I think so.
She gave me that story.
Yeah.
I was there at the beat on Ricerstown Road on Sundays. And it's a true story. At the beat. Remember the beat?
Yeah. What really happened is that I had found it kind of hard to get some work. This was kind of after the whole thing was going down with the new marks. Actually, I think we might have been still together. And because basically Frank was taking all of the jobs. He was so popular because he was doing the radio thing. Most of the jobs just went to him. So basically what I did was I went to him and I said, dude, for real, I'm thinking about being a ski J. Let me come up in the crew and do whatever, because Mark Henry was doing it. You know, I think Sean Marshall was dabbing in it. So Frank was like, all right, cool. Let's go and let's see whatever. Now, here's the thing. Frank was really good at what he was doing. And at the end of the day, what had to happen is that I had to learn how to kind of humble myself and stop. Wait a minute, whoa. Because we would go and we would do these gigs in these places. I would go and I would do what I'm doing. Frank would come on behind me and wipe me, what I consider wipe me completely away. Because basically he would do what he does, play the records that he knew that was going to hit him, and it would, no matter what I did, because I didn't know, wipe them completely out. He would kill me. So I said, okay. So it took me probably a couple months. And then I figured out some things that were sort of kind of going on, and I was able to kind of hold my own. What really did it was, there was a night that Frank did at Mariko's, I believe it was. And this particular night was, it was me, it was a couple other guys, and then it was Frank. Now, probably so. Now, I came on before Frank, but see, the problem is, and what a lot of people didn't realize about Baltimore back then, was when you had, especially around that area, somewhere you were around Liberty Heights and Glen Oak, you got to be real careful. Because the last time that happened was the first time LL Cool J ever came here to Baltimore, and it was in 4604.
4604. I was there.
Right, so we DJ'd, right? We rocked it bad. The dudes that came on behind us were terrible, and the dudes that came on behind the dudes behind us was even worse. That started dudes being idle. And you got these dudes being idle, they not into the music, now they start fighting, then you got a problem. Same thing was getting ready to happen at Mariko's that night, but nobody was standing there watching what was going on with the crowd. So, dude who played before me, and I don't remember who it was, I mean, he literally played drummer's beat for about an hour. Jesus. And I said, okay, I got to come on, and and it wasn't really like an intentional thing to try and show anybody up. But what I figured was that, okay, if nothing happens and I actually get a chance to go on, I got to engage these people. So I got on, and I ran from everything from Milk is Chillin' to Planet Rock.
Telephone Love, all that. All these classes.
In like an hour. And Frank came up to me, and, you know, me being young at the time, he was like, yo, so you got to slow down. I ain't got nowhere to go after you doing what you're doing, because I ain't gonna have nothing to play. And at that point, I was thinking like, yo, you Frank Ski, you kidding me, right? You got some place to go. Now I ain't say this to him, but I'm thinking that in my mind, so I just kept doing what I was doing. The next morning was when the whole thing kind of came to an end. He basically told me that he kind of didn't need me anymore, and it was basically because I was being whatever I was being about the night. You know, I didn't have to go through everything, but I literally went from top to bottom. And that's just me trying to engage the crowd.
Before it got worse.
Well, I don't know whether it saved the night, but the crowd was engaged. And that was kind of all I wanted to happen, because, you know, I mean, you're cool, Rod. These dudes really was terrible. They would fight you.
So what happened with you and, I don't know if it was Dion back then, but I'm assuming it still was Radio 1. We had like a Spen set, a flashback party.
Yeah.
Now, I got another story. I was telling Tone, I'm working at this is years later, this is 99. I'm working at Fort Lee Proving Ground selling Cellular One before they were Singular, before it was AT&T. And light-skinned pretty dude, he started telling me, he was talking about music, and I always bring you up talking about Baltimore music.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, he got a raw deal, because they didn't want him playing the music he was playing, and people, they weren't playing no old school or something. This is his version. Long story short, the person who told me was Babyface Nelson.
Oh.
He said that, and he goes, Sean, rock the house, and, you know, had
is he still around? I ain't seen him.
He's in Anne Arundel County.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He said, you know, everybody we knew, everybody he knew loved your set, but got the program director for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That music too old and blah blah blah. And
basically, what that was that the guy who they had just hired at Radio 1 was not from here. He was from wherever he was from, and so I would be doing a midday mix, and I would play something like Man Parish Hip Hop Bebop, which everybody in their mother knows around here. He was like, "What's that?" It's like, "Yo, for real." And it just got to a point where it was like, a couple of records like that, or Dominatrix, or records like that he was saying, that's not a hit record, you shouldn't play it. And I was just like, there's no way that I can work here if I can't play these records. It doesn't make sense. He was done with
Baltimore period after that. I don't know.
Went to V103, and then V103 was the guy who hired me. Of course, he was no problem. When they came in, and actually, I don't even remember dude's name, but the guy that always did, the little witty comments and stuff for PGC.
Albie D?
No, not Albie. It was another guy, Dr. Dave.
Okay.
Dr. Dave, they hired Dr. Dave to take over what was going on at V103. When he came in and did V103, he absolutely didn't know what he was doing at all. And that was it. And then I went from Radio 1 to a CBS-owned organization. The CBS was like...
Do it frustrate you now, or do you just smile that every day everybody has a flashback hour on their station?
I think it's cool. I think it's cool. It's basically, man, nothing's meant to last forever.
Right, understood.
And when you...
But it's like you...
Oh, yeah.
You introduced this town anyway to what they're doing 20 years ago. And now it's acceptable now. Yeah. It's almost like what I say in a different way, how Big Daddy Kane was placed for doing collabos with R&B.
Yeah.
It wasn't accepted, and now that's all rappers do.
Yeah. Somebody's got to lay the groundwork, I mean, if you look at it like this, somebody has to be a Martin Luther King in order to make something, in order to make change.
But Martin Luther King got his just due.
And that's the point. So everything...
I don't think you got your just due for...
Martin Luther King didn't get his just due until he died, dude. You know what I'm saying? There was no Martin Luther King Day. There was no, you couldn't rally a bunch of dudes in Washington and do anything. I mean, it was just... Somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb, and I think that at times that's what I was. I think that a lot of what I did and what we did as New Marks, and to lay some groundwork for certain things to happen now. If it wasn't for some of the stuff that we did, none of this would be around. So, so do I smile about a lot of that stuff? Yeah, I think that it's a good thing. Do I wish sometimes in the back of my mind that, wow, I wish I could still be doing that? Yeah, but I've been so blessed, man, with doing with what I'm doing. I mean, it's like God has always put me in another position. One door closes, another one opens, another one closes, another one opens. And, to be honest, to say that you are doing anything in music now when, the music industry is basically dead. Unless you are Beyonce or, a Jay-Z, you're not making anywhere near the money that you could have made, in the 90s doing what we're doing.
Have Kevin Liles ever reached back to you and said, I got something I want you to do?
A couple times.
Okay.
It a couple times, back in the 90s, especially when he was doing the Def Jam thing. I mean, I got nothing bad at all to say about Kevin and what he was doing. Because trust me, sure as my name is Sean, he's still doing music industry stuff. You have to change it. And at the end of the day, if you're still surviving in what's going on in this economic climate musically, you've done a job. You've done a job.
You have any bad sets you remember when you just felt like you bombed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
It seems like it's impossible. I mean, I know it happened, but it just
Nah,
seems like...
it's there's no such thing as a DJ that's never had a bad gig. That's a lie, and the truth ain't in it. Especially now, you know, with me doing the global thing. It's one thing, okay, if I'm playing a gig in Baltimore, I know who Baltimoreans are. I know what I can play, and I know how I can get them going. But, you know, I'm playing in South Africa somewhere, you know, or Egypt, or, you know, Japan. You know, half the time I walk in and I might not know what it is I'm going to do or what I'm going to have to do.
In another country, like, okay, I'm going to go this route.
Grace of God, dude. Grace of God and the talent. That's the one thing. The one thing that for sure is a plus situation is that unless you have something for God to work with, and what I mean by that is you need to be prepared so that when the blessing comes, it's done. Ain't nothing but prepared, that's for sure.
This man once told me he went to a wedding with an older crowd. And he didn't know what to do. He put on an instrumental of Ed DOG and the Bulldogs. I got to have it. Said they ran to the dance floor.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that kind of crazy stuff. You know what I mean? It's you know, like
you knew this, or you just took a chance?
It's chance taking.
Wow.
A lot of it is just chance taking. Like I did one thing. I haven't done a wedding, man. I did my first wedding in probably years this year, and it was for, you know, this couple in New York, really kind of wealthy couple. It was at the Park Plaza Hotel. You know, I mean, you just name it. It was really, really a high profile thing. I'm playing everything that I can think to play, based on what it is that they told me they wanted to hear. And literally, the record that got them going was Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And that's when I decided at that point, about 45 minutes into the set, that they ain't dancing off of none of this EDM stuff I'm playing.
Right. Wow.
I played Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Into September by Earth, Wind & Fire, and some other, like, you know, big old school type, you know, Boogie Wonderland and that sort of thing. Once the old people started dancing, the rest of the night was done. I play anything and everything after.
You listen to Baltimore DJs now?
Somewhat, yeah. Sometimes.
I already know who your favorite is. And it gotta be your clone.
Who? Griffin?
Spen Jr.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Griff. He has a very wide palette. And what I mean by that is that he likes stuff. I mean, he'll make an attempt to play some stuff that I would have never even thought to play. You know what I mean? And he puts them together and he makes it work. I don't know how he does it. I don't know whether he rehearses
you can't
stuff
say that,
or what.
because that goes back to earlier when you mixed C'est La Vie.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, it's like, right.
Dude, I had Griff for a whole hour playing that old B104 music, Culture Club. Huey Lewis in the News, and it sounded so good.
Yeah.
Remember, he played the Yes and mixed it with the Sweet Dreams, Own of a Lonely Heart.
That's, and see, that kind of stuff. It's like he has a thing that only he has. Nobody else. I don't hear nobody else on the planet have it, and I don't know whether it was a springboard off of stuff that I've done that he's heard. But woof.
He said Spen taught him everything he knows.
That's why I said.
And you say I know a lot about music, and I told you I know a lot about music because of this man. I sat in resource centers with him at Mount St. Joe and learned everything.
I was just telling Tones, I'm like, I don't know everything, but I just feel like I'm 42, and for my age, even just growing up, I never knew. I know there's people that know more than all of us, but I never knew no one personally that knew more music than me.
Right.
Until I met him.
Oh nah, yo, you cannot mess with yo.
I was in the Collins restaurant up around this town 2 weeks ago. Song was going off. What's the name of that? Who sings that? I asked the lady, who did I tell you she said it was?
Hall and Notes.
Hall and Notes. I knew what Hall and Notes. I called him. I said maybe 5 words to the song.
Yeah, and he know it. Then he take the rest of
like,
it.
that's Kenny Loggins. He says Kenny Loggins Heart to Heart.
It was Kenny
And
Loggins.
I'm like, wow. And I
we go on
immediately
forever.
went and put it on the phone, and that's exactly what it
This
was.
man here is why I'm
And,
like
but he
that.
said because of
He
you.
know me when I was in
He said
Mount
the same
St.
way
Joe.
you
I barely
saved
opened
me,
out my
The
mouth.
spinning them did for me. So I'm like, wow.
And the other day, what I put you with down the other day, he put me down with that. That was my first and only really song I rapped off of, Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh,
He put
right,
me
it's
down
so
with
good.
He put me down with Philadelphia Sound and Music label.
Yeah.
And I was telling him how that
Sickening.
was kind of real better
Just
than
comparing
Motown.
that and Motown.
Yeah.
And I said, Motown
Absolutely.
just had the success, but the sound, Philly sounds the greatest. I mean, like I was telling, my all-time
Yeah.
favorite song is Jones Girls Nights Over You.
Yeah, I think that basically what Motown established, Philadelphia took one step further. Man, Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff was the bomb. They were just the bomb, and not even them, but I mean that whole Philadelphia thing, Tom Bell and all of that. The guys that first choice. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand how much serious, not just over and underground stuff, man, came out of Philadelphia in the 70s. It was sickening.
And back then,
Oh, it had a show up there.
Yeah.
what is the difference? Because it's like they change names and stuff. Like now, the remix, I don't even consider what they call a remix because they say like all they do is just add verses. To like, say if who's hot, Rick Ross come out with a song,
Oh, okay.
then the remix is Wale, Drake, somebody on the end of the song.
Well, basically what they doing now with a whole lot of these remixes is just adding other artists sometimes.
Right.
So you just add another name that's a hot name to make whatever you have even bigger or more accessible to a different audience than it would have been if it was just by itself.
But back when, in the 80s, I don't want to say a good day because you're still doing it, but back in the 80s, even the early 90s, the remix seemed like it was a total different track. It went a total different way. You had the 7-inch, the 12-inch, the disco version, extended version.
We were crazy. And I mean, I'm still doing that kind of stuff. Like get an acapella to a record and completely wipe out the whole thing musically. But then, there's these other ones that are more, kind of like re-editing what was already there. And just, sort of rearranging it and that sort of thing and, redoing it.
Will that sound ever, I'm not going to say ever come back, because it's back for people who go and look for the music.
Mm-hmm.
If you think it will ever come back, and I won't say take over, but just find a spot on radio the way I guess
You
rap
mean,
is.
are you saying hip hop stuff in general? Or?
Hip hop, even disco, good music.
Yeah, it'll find its way back. It won't be called the same thing, but it'll find its way back. Music is nothing but a big circle. The thing is that what's happening now is it's kind of like a reverse, what I'm calling a reverse snowball effect, because basically it's just coming around fast.
And it need to hurt
Then it
because I was thinking there are no R&B groups out right now. Not a one.
Well, there's a theory behind that too.
Okay. Money? It's not even R&B out period, it seems like. It's just...
It's kind of like all mushed together under this umbrella called pop. There's no like definition.
Your two
but it's
newest
on
artists, it's like it come from a bunch of ratchetness, which would be, I guess, Tamar Braxton and Hey Michelle. Nobody bought their music because the music was broken and people liked it and requested it. They seen their hoodlumness on TV,
right?
And they just said, "Oh, let me go and check her out because of whatever."
Well, what I'm thinking is happening now is that you had that period in the '90s where a dude from the ghetto could literally make a song, and next thing you know, it's plastered all over the world. He's making $1 million. But I think that what's happened now is that with the decline of physical sales, which is CDs and all of that stuff going into MP3s, the first thing is that major record labels ain't trying to sign no dang on hoodlums like that anymore. Because the fact of the matter is that you can't get any real longevity. If you put a guy out on a record and next thing you know he's dead 2 years later because of whatever, it's not worth the long-term investment that you're trying to, put into whatever. So, now, and I was tripping out at this because his daughter, your daughter's in school doing music kind of stuff, right? So she's in school doing dance stuff. And what's happening now is that you got a lot of people like Clive Davis, who is one of the presidents of the School of Music at NYU. All right. See, a lot of people don't know that, but fact of the matter is that now you got to go. To even get into that school, you got to do an audition. You got to have all of these different credentials. You should probably have a recording. This is going into college.
Right.
All right. So now you get into college. If you get in, okay, if you get in and you real good, you probably won't have to pay. Other than that, you're paying $100,000, and you got to go through everything else you got to go through just to get to Clive Davis to say that you can graduate from it. So these are the people, so people thinking that like Miley Cyrus and a couple of these people are accidents. You either born into a family that comes that's breeding it, or you coming out of a situation where they know that they can figure that they can handle you long term.
Or do like Spen, get an old church group like the Controllers, put their song on tape, and a classic.
Right. And who would think of stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's like you are always like cutting edge, and I just pray for those days to come back. I mean, even now, I don't know nothing about
they won't be the
record
same.
labels and
back.
things, but I would think if I ran a record label and I say like a Jill Scott, Ryan Devine, Erykah Badu, Lettucey, people like that, they're selling out on tour, so somebody wants to see them.
Yeah.
Why can't they be marketed and promoted to get them a record? None of them have a record deal. They all indie, and I'm quite sure it's not all by choice.
Biggest problem that you having now is that the consumer can't be played with. Whereas back in our day, you kind of like knew if you belong. You could kind of take the consumer and say, hey, you belong here. You could kind of brainwash them into a way of thinking to a degree. All right. Now, because everybody has a computer, you not only have access to whatever song you want, and if you know where to go, you can get it for free. You can go have access to any movie you want. If you know where to go, you can get it for free. Right. Almost any and everything that you want is at your fingertips. So I can't say, okay, Erykah Badu, you're the best thing in the world, and I'm gonna take you and I'm gonna market you to the whole globe, because the whole globe might not like you. Whole globe might say, but then I'm out of $1 million from promoting something that nobody likes. So it's taking a big chance. The reason that Jay-Z and Beyonce are as big as they are, especially coming out of the ethnic kind of music, is that they made it big before the crash of the music industry.
Lucky them.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? And they were on the cusp of it. So now they have influence. So when you bring a Rihanna around, you can do it. That kind of stuff. Because now Jay-Z's been in the industry for as long as Biggie and them has been around.
I'm gonna ask you a question before I get ready to get back to work. You hold this man's opinion to the highest esteem.
Absolutely.
Okay. We on what's called a blog. Let's talking, sports. Like that.
Yeah.
And I'm
on this with him?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
I know what the question is.
I'm the oldest, and I got my cousin them. They in their 30s. They late 30s. Chubb Rock or Rick Ross?
Honestly.
As a rapper.
Now, I ain't gonna lie. I don't know that much about Rick Ross. All right? But ain't nobody. I don't care who you are. And in fact, what is Chubb Rock doing? A professor now? Mm-hmm. Come on, yo. You got to be a real smart cookie to try and come for anybody like that. And nobody young. See, here's the thing. When you have experience like that, and you got a lyrical kind of a talent, this is not a physical thing. This is all a mental thing. All right? When you got talent like that, can't nobody mess with you. I would hate to see KRS-One turn into any one of these young boys. Seriously? I mean, or like, all right, Most Def for real is bad. Most Def is nasty. He will wear any of these young boys out, and he's coming off of that. He's right at the tail end of what we was doing. You know what I'm saying? So he's got kind of like a little bit of both worlds going on, but. I don't know. I had to listen to Rick Ross a little bit in order to even tell you that, man. But you know, who I'm disappointed in is the Jizza. Genius for real was probably
It's my favorite rapper of all time. That's why I
It's
listen to
really-
that.
Like Fred,
My
like
favorite
Fred
rapper.
Sanford in the business for the junker.
for real. Genius for real could probably have, and I don't know what happened with him. I don't know. I'm thinking probably
It's
drug
hard to market
induced.
him.
Yeah, hard to market him, and probably got this self-deprecating kind of stuff. Probably drug-induced stupors, you know, that sort of thing. But
He's my favorite. And
why? Why is he your favorite of all time?
Because to me, not that you wasn't a genius, not that you want to
Yeah.
look at it as a
And
book, but when I hear him rap, it's like you really have to pay attention. It ain't your everyday gun violence, but the stuff he say, like when he said, I flow like the blood on a murder scene. It's like,
Yeah,
or some wild out shit that you insert a fame.
yeah,
And it's like all his stuff. I look beyond the last two words rhyming on each word on each
Yeah,
line,
yeah.
and it's like, wow, one of my favorite all time. His first album, Liquid Swords, the best Wu-Tang product to me.
You think so?
Everybody else say only built for Cuban links.
I think so. I gotta agree. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because musically, Cuban Links is better.
Production-wise,
All right?
yes,
I
I would
it's definitely
say
better.
it's definitely better.
Far better.
But the lyrics on each song, like what he did with Bible, he broke the letters down. He said, what it really is, Bible is basic instructions before leaving earth. And that spells Bible.
Yeah, and I'm just
Who
like,
comes
you
up
know,
with that?
he has. That's what I'm saying. He has this really. I don't know. It's a strange gift that he has, and nobody can do it the way that he does it. But nobody really listens far enough
Exactly.
to understand and get that. But man,
The early genius, he put this.
but
put it on
early
the tape.
genius, see, for
91?
me.
I call this man at midnight. Who in the hell is this?
Who is your favorite rapper?
Oh, it's Big Daddy. He died to the fool at the play.
Jay-Z and Big Daddy ain't my favorite. Trial Funk West my favorite group.
Hey, when he put Genius
I
on
hated
that,
what Karis went into the Juice Crew because
what he did to who?
He
the
did.
Juice Crew, but he didn't go after the heavyweights.
Right.
He couldn't. I don't think the heavyweights really existed before he
I mean, he
could.
didn't go after Kane and KG. I mean, Kane and Fuji rap.
Oh
So
no.
him
this
and
is all
Kane
about
was
Kane.
real close friends.
Right.
And I don't know why he didn't go after Fuji rap. But
Who was real close friends?
said that week before, oh no, Karis one interview, the week before he dropped South Bronx, he got King helped him move to
Seriously?
his place. Yeah, it was on YouTube interview.
I ain't know that.
Yeah, me neither. I found it like about a year ago. I would get it for you as soon as
Genius said, I'm committed to break down the tone. I'm like naughty hair ripping my teeth. That was it. When that
See,
Very
but
good.
that's when. But see him, his early album. See, Liquid Swords is good. That first album.
That was way before his time.
Yeah, I know. And you couldn't even. The bad thing about it is that, see, again, the production. It suffered from production. Everything he does suffers from bad production.
Nas' biggest problem. To me.
You think
It's
Nas?
a terrible ear. The beats he picked for what he's delivering don't match.
Yeah, that's why you got. That's why you got to give Jay-Z props. Seriously. Serious.
I sent you that.
last question, which probably should have been the first. I need to ask this a million times.
Mm-hmm.
I know where you got it from.
Yeah.
I know where you got it from, but what made you catch that Blondie song? She said DJ Spen and you just.
I have no idea.
Fooling them like boys in Mount St. Joe.
Messing around.
And did she say? Because there's not another DJ Spen.
Right.
So did you cut it? When she said
I cut it.
DJ
She
Spen,
says DJ Spin in.
Okay,
So every
I thought
time I
it
had to do it, I had to cut it
Spin.
short.
So
He addressed that in his rhyme. He said S to the P, not the I, but the E in it.
Yeah. Right. So
He
I
addressed
literally would have to cut it.
That's what she is. He was the first.
I wish you continued
Wow.
success and
Thank
the
you.
next gig. I have to be there.
And someone else, a guy named
I
D
might
Nice
edit
who
this
worked
up
with me,
and send
named
it to you.
Jared. He wanted to, meet you. And I told him I was going to meet you. He's a big fan of you. He wanted to know if you